Hello to everyone who's watching. We are here with Mr. Israel Salvador from NorSun in Norway. He was giving his presentation, a case study basically on the Smart Factory League Summit. I really thank you for joining us today over here.
You're welcome.
Really great presentation, and I would like to know a little bit more about what do you do at NorSun and NorSun as a company, what it does.
Sure. So what I do in NorSun is I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the company. We have a manufacturing facility in Norway, and what we do is manufacturing ingots and wafers for the solar energy industry. That's what we do. So the process itself is very complex, but easy to explain. We take polysilicon, we melt it, we grow a crystal into an ingot, and then we slice it in very thin slices that are called wafers. Then those parts will go to another company who will turn those wafers into cells, and then ultimately those cells will be attached together, creating panels, the ones that you see in the roofs on houses.
So I think NorSun is doing like an interesting work over here in the industry, and it's quite intriguing to learn that from you. In your presentation, you mentioned about fundraising as a bottleneck in this manufacturing industry. So how do you look at it? If you would like to share your thoughts on that.
Sure. So I guess one part will be fundraising for solar technology, but I think these days the one that is a little bit more relevant is raising it for semiconductors.
Yeah.
So it's not really fair to talk about this in an isolated context. You have to go back and remember that after 2008 and the big economical crisis, the market was very slow.
Right.
So for many years, when you think about the electronic components market, it was more a buyer's market than a seller's market. That meant that manufacturers and distributors had to reduce their percentages to be able to keep their organizations alive and running.
Yeah.
They made concessions to the market to be able to keep sales up. But now the situation is different. So you have all steps in the supply chain, from manufacturers of wafers to manufacturers of components to distributors, increasing their prices. In 2021, we have seen a constant trickle of price increases, and as I showed in the presentation, that is also related to raw materials, but primarily it's a matter of taking advantage of the situation. And I mean, who can fault them? For many years they had to work with lower margins, and now they got the possibility to crack them up. So when you look at it from the point of view is, I have 100% of capacity utilization, I'm being able to charge premium prices. You could compare this to the diamond market. Why should I put more in the market? It might dilute my profitability. Now my profitability per wafer, per component is much higher than it's been in many years. And then it's also the concern over when will this stop, because it will, or at least will slow down. So
Has to. Right.
If you're going to make an investment of several $1 billion in a new factory, and 12 months later the demand disappears, you're going to find yourself with a big depreciation to handle and no place to go. So I think that is the reason why people is a little bit more cautious, and why they are much more inclined to invest in small sizes, because they know that is the future, for sure.
I would like to mention that when you were talking about the factors of direct sales and distribution sales, there was a feeling somewhere that one is better over the another, depending on the situation which we are in. So given the current situation, what do you feel the industry should take as a pathway towards sales?
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. It depends very much on your needs. If the volume of procurement that you're making is of a certain size, you're probably going to get advantages by going directly to the manufacturers.
Right.
And they will be inclined to do business with you. But there is a reason why there is a very strong distribution channel. I mean, you might say 25% is not a lot.
Yeah.
What we need to think is that the other 75 is not made of that many companies. When you think about what is bought through distributors, then we're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of customers, from regular distribution channels to what they call high services or catalog suppliers, people that needs 3 components for a prototype. Manufacturers will never entertain this kind of business, so you need to have both, and you need to have a good balance between both of them. So to your question, which channel should you stick to when it comes to buying? I think it depends very much on your volume of business and the mix of products that you need to buy.
Totally understand. So next question was actually about something very interesting, and a lot of even common people would understand about that, which is the panic effect during the COVID. And we, as like normal citizens, we could not being in the specialized industry, just as normal human beings outside our work, we could feel it everywhere around us. You even encapsulated an example of panic buying in supermarkets, for example. We saw it everywhere. It was everywhere in the news. However, it was very interesting to know that the same kind of effect was felt in the industry on a large scale level as well. So how do you currently see this panic effect shaping up in this industry? Is it becoming more of a habit of big buyers, or is it something that currently they are adopting as an habit just to avert from the current scenario, but later on they would have some sort of methodology to avoid the same in the future? Or maybe you personally, how do you look at it? How it could be
It's
mitigated?
It's an interesting question. During the peak of this effect, distributors especially said that they believe they had about 20% of what they call ghost orders. That means orders that people put, but later on they will probably cancel. Or you have a customer placing the same order with 2 different suppliers in the hope that at least one of them will secure the material, right? I think that the amount of ghost orders now is much less than it was before, for the reason that I explained during the presentation, because we have stabilized a bit the situation and people is placing orders for a longer horizon. That is something not very common in our industry. People tries to go for a just-in-time as much as possible, lower inventory levels, and you place the order when you need it based on the lead time of the components. But what has happened now is that people has been placing orders for 2022 for many components, and in some cases even for 2023. So it doesn't mean that they are asking for immediate delivery, but they are placing the orders to make sure that distributors and manufacturers have them in the list to get parts, and then they can get a confirmation. That confirmation may or may not be in line exactly with what they wanted short term, but they are banking on having those parts delivered on time in a little bit of a longer horizon. So people place a lot of orders in Q2 this year for deliveries in Q1 of 2022. And I think the likelihood that they will get the parts on time is higher than otherwise.
And also there is less likelihood that those are going to be ghost orders.
Yes.
That if it happens that way, that would be an ideal scenario, and it remains to be seen how it's going to be actually. When you said about like you mentioned about the automotive space as well in your case study, and talking about semiconductors, the lack of chips in the automotive industry, and currently, again, going back to the common man here, everyone is facing the wrath of that.
Yes.
Personally, I'm from the automotive background, and I'm following this really, really closely. And I have been a victim myself of trying to order a new car and not being able to get that. So instead going to buy a second-hand car.
Yes.
Because that will come with infotainment.
Yes.
So I don't have to buy a new car without infotainment. And looking at this, like currently what the space is with the automotive industry, with the chips, how do you see maybe 2022 or 23 or maybe even 24?
When things are going to stabilize?
When things are going to stabilize, and also, like you quoted, how the music will stop.
Yeah, I think to me that is the most important question. That this will normalize, it always does. This is in my opinion, the worst allocation that the market has ever experienced in history, for the length and the depth of it, how everything is affected, since it's everybody is drinking from the same well when it comes to wafers.
True.
So the big question, and what is making people a little bit more apprehensive, is how will this stop? So many manufacturers are now demanding that the contracts for 2022 are non-cancelable, non-returnable, meaning if you place an order, you will get those parts whether you want them at the time or not. You will not be able to cancel them at all, and you will not be able to return them. And the reason for it is this increase in concern over the fact that this has been running for a year now. Like the depth of it is, or the length of this allocation is now 12 months. So how much longer is it going to go?
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be left holding the bag.
True.
So I expect that as the perception of an end of a cycle comes closer, we will see people reacting to it. And again, I'm not sure how smart we're going to be about it based on past experiences. I think at that time everybody will want to be given the possibility to dump orders and not get the stock, if that is the case. And then you will have the sellers, manufacturers and distributors trying to make sure that they are not left holding multi-billion dollars worth of stock.
Talking about smartness, I would like to mention that I definitely became a little bit smarter today, because I did not know that among the top 20 buyers, there's no automotive company for the semiconductors, and this was a shocking fact for me. Really on the top of the list are companies like Samsung, Apple,
Yes.
and really the big players in the market. But there are no automotive companies.
No.
But most of the chat we see around in the industry or on the media channels is about lack of chips in the automotive industry.
Yes.
Probably that's because that helps people going.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see how it's going to be in the future, like you mentioned, and really appreciate your inputs on that.
Pleasure.
And speaking about NorSun, if the situation has currently changed, we all agree it's a huge disruption. So do you see yourself adapting to some sort of new methods going ahead in the future regarding your future plans?
Yes. In our industry, the trend now is to go for bigger sizes. We have to remember that 99% of the ingot and wafers in the world are manufactured in China today. But more and more countries are taking a stronger position when it comes to environment and environment protection, sustainability. So they are demanding that products that are supposed to be environmentally friendly or aiming towards sustainability actually meet minimum standards of sustainability criteria.
Right.
So some of the countries like France or South Korea, they are putting in place legislation that demand that the solar panels that they buy are below a certain CO2 footprint limit. If you buy wafers from China, since they manufacture or they get the electricity, the production of wafers is a very power-rich process. So in China, most of the electricity is produced by coal stations, coal centrals, power stations, and that is the opposite to green. So a lot of these wafers manufactured by China do not meet the criteria or do not help meet the criteria, and therefore people have to look for alternative ways of securing acceptable wafers, which plays to the advantage of companies like NorSun. But it is also fair to say that there has been a big brain drain when it comes to solar technology in Europe, especially for ingot and wafers, because as companies have been going bankrupt and shutting down, as governments have removed subsidies and support for this kind of technology, then everything has been moving more towards China. And we in these places have lost a lot of the necessary knowledge to be able to make this an efficient process. So for NorSun, we are following the market trend in terms of increasing sizes and investing heavily in new technology to be able to meet that demand in the market.
Yeah, I wish you all the best with that.
Thank you.
I'm really sure looking at the presentation today and with the knowledge you shared, there's more to be achieved definitely
Yes.
in the future, but you do seem to have the capability of doing that. So we will be looking forward to what you do in the future.
Thank you.
And hopefully you can inspire a lot of other companies around you. And I definitely agree with you on the emissions part, because when we talk about China, yeah, most of the electricity is coming from the coal production.
Yeah.
And in a way, probably we can say that this is like a fundamental fault in the supply chain if we want to be zero emissions
Yes.
eventually in the future. So moving things probably to Europe. Also, you were mentioning that it's better to have your supply chain based
Close to
around
you.
your production. Yeah. So yeah, having in Europe, preferably in your same city or you're in your same country. In the morning as well, there was a talk which mentioned that it's not just about taking care of your own production, the emissions through your own production, but also the emissions
Supply
in your
chain.
entire supply chain.
Yes.
So all of what you're saying is connecting really well with the event, and I'm really happy that there is a synchronization in the discussions today. That's what we really look forward to.
Yes.
So thank you for
You're very
being with
welcome.
us over here. And just a final one, I would like to ask you if you, in your quick time, in your busy schedule, you managed to be here. So if you made any learnings through this summit, and
it's-
if you would be looking forward to the next Smart Factory League.
Absolutely. I think everybody here today is very happy to be able to be back into this kind of live events where you can hear about what other people is doing. They might not necessarily solve your problems,
Right.
but they might inspire you to look for solutions somewhere else.
Yes.
And that has a lot of value in itself. So I have to say that it's great that companies such as yours is back on the road creating this event so we can gather back again and we can learn from each other and talk to each other. So great, it's been a fantastic experience.
Great. I'm really happy to know that, and we as a team take utmost pleasure in such kind of experiences when delegates and speakers create for themselves. So thank you so much.
You're very
again.
welcome.
And that was Mr. Israel Salvador from NorSun.
Very good.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.